McNabb steps up, down the middle for Pinkston, what a catch!
That is Donovan McNabb.
Hey, I just have one question. Who's number one?
Donovan McNabb holds every major Eagles passing record, over 37,000 yards and 216 touchdowns. He led Philadelphia to 5 NFC Championship games and became the face of the franchise for a decade. Yet, his name rarely comes up when people talk about NFL greats. How does a quarterback with those numbers and that impact still split fans, even years after his last snap? Today, we're looking at why the man who rewrote the Eagles record books remains a polarizing figure, and what that says about the way we judge winning, legacy, and what it means to be truly appreciated. To understand where this complicated story starts, you have to go back to the very beginning. The story truly takes shape of the 1999 NFL Draft, a moment that would define Donovan McNabb's relationship with Philadelphia from the very start.
The Philadelphia Eagles select Donovan McNabb, quarterback, Syracuse University.
The Eagles held the second overall pick and were expected to make a move that would change their franchise. McNabb, coming out of Syracuse as a dual-threat quarterback with a strong arm and proven leadership, was the logical choice for a team searching for stability. But as soon as his name was called, the atmosphere shifted. Instead of cheers, a chorus of boos echoed through the theater, sharp, persistent, and impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a random outburst. The reaction came from a group known as the Dirty 30, a set of fans sent by local radio personalities Angelo Cataldi and Ed Rendell. Their voices carried the frustration of a fan base that wanted instant results, and many of them had hoped the Eagles would draft Ricky Williams, the electrifying running back who had just shattered college records. For these fans, Williams represented a quick fix, a player who could deliver excitement and hopefully wins right away. By choosing McNabb, the Eagles signaled a commitment to building to the future, but for a city that had waited too long already, patience was in short supply. The boos that night were more than just noise, they were a message. Philadelphia fans are known for their intensity, and on draft night, that passion turned into skepticism. McNabb was stepping into a situation where he would have to win over not just his teammates, but an entire city that doubted him from the start. The pressure was immediate, and every move he made would be viewed through the lens of that controversial introduction. Despite the rocky start, McNabb quickly showed why the Eagles put their faith in him. After spending most of his rookie season learning from the sidelines, he took over as the starter in 2000. That year, McNabb delivered a breakout performance. He threw for 3,365 yards and rushed for 629 more, finishing second in MVP voting and leading Philadelphia back to the playoffs. His ability to make plays with both his arms and his legs changed the way the Eagles played offense. Suddenly, the city that had doubted him saw real hope on the field. McNabb's style was different from what Philadelphia was used to. He brought a calm confidence, rarely letting the pressure get to him. He'd escape defenders, extend plays, and find ways to keep drives alive when things looked lost. For a city that values grit and resilience, McNabb started to look like the kind of leader who could handle the weight of their expectations. By the end of his first full season, he had already led the Eagles to the playoffs, setting the stage for a run of success that the franchise hadn't seen in decades. But even as McNabb's star rose, the echoes of that draft night never fully faded. In Philadelphia, the relationship between fans and stars is always a little complicated. The same passion that fuels the city's support can quickly turn into criticism when things go wrong. McNabb faced this reality throughout his career. Early struggles with accuracy or an untimely interception would get magnified, sometimes out of proportion. For every moment of brilliance, there was always a reminder of how it all began, with the city that wasn't sure he was the answer. Still, McNabb kept delivering. He led the Eagles to the NFC Championship game in 2000, the first of 5 times he would take them that far. His play brought energy and hope to the team and its fans. And for a while, it seemed like the doubts might finally disappear. But in Philadelphia, success is often measured by championships, and the cheers that followed McNabb's big wins always felt just a little bit cautious. The city was waiting for something more. This early chapter set the tone for everything that followed. McNabb became the foundation of a team that would dominate the NFC for nearly a decade. But he also carried the weight of a city's impatience and high expectations. The tension between his achievements and the lingering doubts from that first night would shape his legacy in ways that went far beyond the stat sheet. As McNabb's career unfolded, his leadership and unique style transformed the Eagles into perennial contenders. Yet, the questions about his place in Philadelphia's sports history never completely went away. That complicated relationship would define not just McNabb's time with the Eagles, but also the way fans remember one of the most successful eras in franchise history. From 2000 to 2009, Philadelphia became a fixture in the playoffs, making 5 trips to the NFC Championship game and capturing 5 division titles. McNabb shattered every passing mark in Eagles history, from yards to touchdowns to quarterback wins. He was the face of an era where the Eagles were always in the mix, always the threat, and always in the conversation when it came to the NFL's best teams. What made McNabb stand out was how he changed the way the position was played in Philadelphia. He wasn't just a pocket passer. He forced defenses to account for his legs as much as his arm. At a time when mobile quarterbacks were still a rarity, McNabb's ability to escape pressure and create something out of nothing gave the Eagles an edge. Over his prime years, he piled up more than 32,000 passing yards and more than 3,400 rushing yards, making him one of the most dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks of his generation. His knack for pulling off the improbable became a hallmark of Eagles football. One of the best examples came in the 2003 playoffs. Facing 4th and 26 against the Packers, McNabb connected with Freddie Mitchell for a season-saving completion, a play that still gets talked about in Philadelphia as a moment of pure clutch. But as much as McNabb delivered, there was always another side to the story. The Eagles' steady presence in the playoffs raised expectations, and with each deep run, the pressure grew. For some fans, the standard became simple: win the Super Bowl or it's not enough. That focus on the ultimate prize sometimes overshadowed everything else McNabb accomplished. It's a tough standard. After all, Jim Kelly led the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls and never won, and his legacy is still debated. McNabb brought the Eagles to 5 NFC title games, but the absence of the championship ring became a talking point that followed him everywhere. Critics pointed to moments when McNabb missed a throw or took a sack at the wrong time. In a city that's always hungry for a title, every mistake was magnified. Some questioned his leadership style. Others wondered if he had the extra gear needed to get over the hump. But the numbers told a different story. McNabb's consistency kept the Eagles in the hunt year after year, and his ability to adapt, whether by scrambling for a first down or making a big throw under pressure, set him apart from most of his peers. The conversation around McNabb often felt split. On one side, you had fans and analysts who saw him as the best quarterback in franchise history, someone who brought stability and hope to the team that had struggled for decades. On the other, there were those who couldn't look past the lack of a Super Bowl win. That tension shaped the way people talked about McNabb, even as he kept breaking records and leading the Eagles to new heights. As the seasons went on, each playoff run brought fresh hope, but also a new round of questions whenever the Eagles fell short. McNabb's ability to keep the team competitive was never in doubt, but for some, it was always about what he hadn't done, not what he had. The years of playoff football, the dramatic wins, the highlight reel plays, those became part of the story, but so did the frustration that came with never quite reaching the mountaintop. Through it all, McNabb remained the steady force behind the Eagles' rise. His leadership, his playmaking, and his resilience kept the team in contention and gave fans reasons to believe, even when things didn't go as planned. The foundation he built set the stage for the most memorable highs and some of the toughest lows in Eagle history. Heading into 2004, everything seemed to be coming together for McNabb and the Eagles. The team was on the verge of something special, and McNabb was about to enter the most significant and challenging chapter of his career. The 2004 season brought a major shift for the Eagles when they traded for Terrell Owens, one of the league's most talented and attention-grabbing receivers. For years, people had said McNabb needed a top-tier target to get the Eagles over the hump. Owens arrived with a reputation for big plays and a personality that demanded the spotlight. Immediately, the partnership between McNabb and Owens transformed the Eagles' offense. McNabb posted career highs with 3,875 passing yards and 31 touchdowns, while Owens racked up 1,200 receiving yards and 14 touchdowns. The two seemed to click right away, and the Eagles stormed through the regular season, finishing 13-1 before resting starters. On the field, the connection was hard to miss. Owens brought new energy and confidence to the offense, while McNabb's ability to extend plays allowed Owens to make the most of his skills. Defenses struggled to keep up, and the Eagles looked like a team with few weaknesses. The city rallied behind their new star duo, and for the first time in years, Philadelphia felt like it had a team built to win it all. Playoff run that year only added to the excitement. The Eagles advanced to the Super Bowl for the first time in nearly a quarter century. Owens made headlines for returning from a serious ankle injury to play in the big game, defying doctors' expectations. He turned in a remarkable performance, catching 9 passes for 122 yards against the Patriots. McNabb threw for 357 yards and 3 touchdowns, fighting to keep the Eagles in it until the final minutes. But the game ended in a narrow 24-21 loss, and the disappointment lingered. Instead of uniting the team, the defeat exposed tensions that had been building behind the scene. As the offseason began, those tensions became public. Owens, never shy about speaking his mind, started voicing frustrations about his contract and took aim at McNabb's leadership. He questioned McNabb's conditioning in the Super Bowl and suggested the team could have performed better with a different quarterback. These comments quickly grabbed headlines and put the Eagles' locker room under a microscope. Owens' demands for a new contract only added to the drama, and the situation grew more strained as the months went on. By the start of the 2005 season, the partnership that had once looked unstoppable was falling apart. Owens continued to criticize McNabb in interviews and made it clear he was unhappy with the situation. The tension between the two became a constant distraction, affecting the atmosphere around the team. Despite McNabb's efforts to stay focused and lead by example, the conflict overshadowed everything else happening on the field. Eventually, the Eagles' management stepped in. After a series of incidents, the team suspended Owens for conduct detrimental to the team. He was deactivated for 9 games and never played for Philadelphia again. The suspension marked a turning point, not just for the Eagles' season, but for the McNabb era as a whole. The offense struggled to recapture its spark, and the team missed the playoffs after years of dominance. Looking back, the brief partnership between McNabb and Owens stands out as a moment when everything seemed possible for the Eagles. When it worked, they were nearly impossible to stop, but the fallout from their public feud left a lasting mark. The departure of Owens signaled the end of the Eagles' peak years with McNabb at quarterback and raised questions about how much more they could have accomplished together. For McNabb, the events of 2004 and 2005 added another layer to his legacy. He had proven he could reach the highest level with the right pieces around him, but the drama that followed made it harder for some to see just how much he had achieved. The partnership with Owens showed both the heights McNabb could reach and the challenges he faced, both on and off the field. But the story didn't end with locker room disputes. As McNabb continued his career, he found himself facing criticism and scrutiny from far beyond his own team. The pressures of being a franchise quarterback in Philadelphia were about to get even more complicated. Off the field, Donovan McNabb faced a set of challenges that went beyond football. The public's view of him was shaped not just by his play, but by a host of external pressures that followed him throughout his career. As a black quarterback in the NFL, McNabb's presence alone forced conversations about race, leadership, and expectations, topics that still lingered in the league at the time. These pressures didn't just affect how he was covered in the media, they directly influenced the way fans, analysts, and even his peers talked about his legacy. One of the most talked about moments came in 2003. During an appearance on ESPN's NFL Countdown, Rush Limbaugh claimed the media wanted a black quarterback to succeed and suggested McNabb was overrated because of it. ESPN quickly apologized, but the comment became a national flashpoint. McNabb responded by keeping his focus on his track record, saying, "It's not about color, it's about how well you play." The incident didn't go away quietly. Instead, it added a new level of attention and debate to McNabb's career, making it clear that he was being judged on more than just his stats or wins. The scrutiny didn't stop there. In 2005, J. Wyatt Mundesir, the head of the Philadelphia chapter of the NAACP, published a column criticizing McNabb's approach and saying he was not that good because he didn't run enough. It was a surprising attack, especially coming from someone in a position to support him. McNabb handled it with his usual calm, simply stating, "Racism isn't my playbook." Even so, the moment highlighted how McNabb was caught in the middle of bigger conversations about race and identity, sometimes facing criticism from every direction. No matter how he played, there was always seemed to be another angle for people to debate. In Philadelphia, these outside pressures were magnified by the city's intense sports culture. Eagles fans are known for their passion and high standards, and McNabb felt that every week. A missed throw or a late interception didn't just show up in the box score. It became the focus of talk radio and headlines. McNabb's reserved personality sometimes came across as distant to fans who wanted to see more visible emotion from their quarterback. That difference in style created a disconnect, as some supporters questioned whether he showed enough fire or leadership. For McNabb, who preferred to let his performance speak for itself, this was a challenge that never really went away. Despite all this, McNabb's consistency on the field was hard to ignore. Year after year, he kept the Eagles in contention, setting records and leading playoff runs. He was the foundation of one of the most successful stretches in team history. Still, the conversation around him often skipped past his accomplishments and circled back to what he hadn't done, winning a Super Bowl or matching a certain image of leadership. The weight of these expectations, combined with the outside noise, shaped the way people talked about his career, sometimes overshadowing his actual achievements. By the time McNabb's years in Philadelphia were winding down, his reputation was a complicated mix of respect, debate, and lingering questions. Some fans saw him as the greatest quarterback the franchise had ever had. Others couldn't get past the missed opportunities or the perception that he wasn't the right fit for the city. And running through it all were the bigger conversations about what it meant to be a black quarterback in the NFL, and how those pressures made McNabb's journey different from almost everyone else's. As the chapter in Philadelphia closed, the discussion around McNabb was far from settled. The next phase of his career would bring new challenges, and the way people remembered his time with the Eagles would keep shifting. especially as the team's story continued to evolve. After Donovan McNabb's time in Philadelphia, his career entered a new phase that would shape how many remembered his legacy. Age and injuries caught up to him. McNabb was traded to Washington at 33, and the results were a sharp contrast to his prime years. He struggled to find the same rhythm, finishing the season with 14 touchdowns and 15 interceptions before being benched for Rex Grossman. The following year, McNabb joined the Minnesota Vikings, hoping for a fresh start, but it didn't last long. He started only 6 games before being replaced and quietly retired from the NFL in 2011. For a player who had once defined the Eagles' success, this quick decline was a reminder of how quickly things can change in the league. And for a while, his records and playoff runs remained the high watermark for the franchise. But the NFL moves fast, and new faces soon took center stage in Philadelphia. The city that once debated every McNabb throw was now looking for its next leader, its next chance at a title. The conversation around McNabb's legacy grew more complicated as the years went on. For a decade, he had been the steady presence that kept the Eagles in contention. He set every major passing record for the team, led them to 5 NFC Championship games, and changed the way people thought about Eagles football. Yet, in the years following his retirement, the story shifted. The Eagles' near misses in the Super Bowl during McNabb's tenure became a point of comparison whenever the team came close but didn't finish the job. Fans remembered the heartbreak, but also the excitement he brought every season. Then, in 2017, the Eagles finally reached the mountaintop. Led by a new head coach and a backup quarterback, the team won its first Super Bowl, defeating the New England Patriots in a game that instantly became part of Philadelphia sports legend. The city erupted in celebration, and a new set of heroes took their place in Eagles history. Suddenly, the years of almosts and close calls from the McNabb era took on a different meaning. The long wait was finally over, and for many fans, that championship became the defining moment for the franchise. As the Eagles added another Super Bowl appearance in 2022, the focus on championships only grew stronger. The narrative around McNabb's career began to shift even more. While his achievements remained respected, they often felt overshadowed by the team's more recent success. Younger fans, who grew up watching the Super Bowl runs, saw McNabb's era as the foundation, but not the pinnacle of Eagles football. The excitement and relief that came with finally winning it all made the earlier years seem further away and sometimes less celebrated. Even so, the organization recognized McNabb's impact. In 2013, the Eagles retired his number 5 jersey, honoring his place among the franchise's all-time greats. The ceremony was respectful and appreciative, but it didn't have the same energy as the parades and celebrations for the players who brought home the Lombardi Trophy. It was a moment to reflect on what McNabb had meant to the team, a leader, a record setter, and the quarterback who brought the Eagles back to relevance. McNabb's legacy is a mix of remarkable achievement and lingering questions. He changed the standard for what Eagles fans could expect from their quarterback. He brought the team to the doorstep of greatness again and again. But in a city that values championships above all, his story is often measured by what didn't happen, not just what did. The Super Bowl wins that followed his era gave fans the ending they always wanted, but they also made it harder to appreciate the journey that got them there. Looking back at McNabb's career, it's clear that greatness in sports isn't always defined by a single moment or a final victory. Sometimes it's about the years of hope, the record set, and the foundation built for future success. McNabb gave Philadelphia a decade of relevance, pride, and belief. The question is whether that's enough, or if his legacy deserves a different kind of recognition. Donovan McNabb's career shows how a player's stats and impact can get lost behind a single missing championship. He led the Eagles to a decade of relevance, broke franchise records, and changed what fans expected from their team's quarterback. Still, for many, the ringless label has stuck more than the numbers or the wins. It's worth asking if McNabb's contributions deserve more credit. Did he build the foundation that made Philly's parades possible? Share your thoughts below. Where does McNabb really rank among NFL quarterbacks? And comment with your favorite Donovan McNabb moments from his time in Philadelphia.